Live at 3, Marvel Strike Force is not free. I don't know. It doesn't have to rhyme with 3, but live rhymes with 5 and 4. Let's look at the store. So 3 something, I'm sure you guys will tell me. We've got a bunch of stuff to go over. Mostly we're going to talk about the community's reaction to the changes of the Scourge. And I have some thoughts and some opinions and some suggestions. But before we get into that, let's look at Brotherhood of the Storm and the events that are coming next week. Starting on the 8th, which is tomorrow, spend campaign energy, then battle in Crucible. The main thing to know here is that there's extra points for using Superior 6. So maybe pull them off of defense if you want to maximize this event. That's up to you. Spend incursion campaign energy also starts tomorrow. Now, this was a change made in the raid season rewards. Last season was Cyclops for 2 weeks, and that ran for 2 periods. And I'm not sure that it's going to be the same or if it's going to change every 2 weeks. Actually, don't know what's going to happen because they had to make an announcement saying that we're going to do Cyclops again, and now it is Vulture. So for people that are in the top 1,000 alliances in the 2-week period for the raid season rewards, we'll be getting diamond stars on Vulture, and then the top 10 alliances will be getting 3 diamonds. And it's unknown to me whether or not that will change, and so that it'll be like, I don't know if it's going to go like Cyclops, Cyclops, Vulture, Vulture, or if it's going to go change every week. There was no announcement of this. I was actually very surprised that this information was not found in Friday's blog post. Also, it's brought to my attention that the rewards for Kiln are going to include Gambit, not only character shards, but red stars and diamonds. I was about to refresh the Elite store because I'm looking for diamonds on Gambit. I would like to get Gambit to like 1 diamond, 2 diamond, and everybody's like, no, don't spend power cores refreshing this store. First of all, it's a waste to spend those power cores, but maybe it'll be relatively easy on this event to get diamonds on Gambit. Just saying, I thought it was a great suggestion. Grateful to chat for pointing that out to me. Now, you go in game and you do not have 7 yellow stars on the Horsemans. You will find that there are milestones for getting character shards. And so the 4 Scourges are going to be starting tomorrow. They will run for 5 days, and then they will restart again 2 weeks from tomorrow. So for the first 5 days of every 2-week period, they're going to be available. Now, it's a little bit confusing, and there's some commentary, and there's going to be a group of players that are not going to be happy with this. But in general, it's 500,000 for an unlock, 700,000 for a 4-star, 900,000 for a 5-star, 1.15 million for a 6-star, and 1.35 million for a 7 yellow star. So, if you want to do well in the Scourges, this is what you will get once you get to these levels. Now, some people, for example, have a 6-star already, and they, at the most, they would have to get 1.35 million to get the 7-star. But there are some situations where it rounds down, and it actually will be the milestone before, which I don't have that number in front of me, but I think it's like 1.2 something million. And they could finish off their Morgan Le Fay with a lower threshold. So it seems to round down. But in general, for example, if you currently have a 4-star Horseman, the most you'll need on the next, when you start doing your Scourges and doing your War and Pestilence or whichever one you want to do, is going to need is 900,000. But there are some situations where the number might be lower because it rounds down. Now, there's some information here on the website, which I thought was very useful. And this is under the Apocalypse section. The link is right there. But right here at the bottom of this pyramid, it kind of spells out what all the nodes 5 and 10 are. So right here, Web Warrior, Dark Hunter, Young Avenger, A-Force, Inhuman for Rogue, Hero Guardian, Ravager, Wave 1 Avengers for Red Hulk, and then Archangel was Bionic Avenger, Wakandan. They should put minions on here, but if you want more specific information, you can go into the map section and you can select the one that you're looking for. So I will just pick Pestilence, and then you want to go the difficulty. If you want the maximum, you hit difficulty, and then it'll spell out what's needed on every node. Other thing too is if you scroll down to the bottom here, it lists the requirements for getting a baby apocalypse here and a big boy apocalypse here. And it was brought out in Friday's video that you really don't need 7 yellow stars to get a big boy apocalypse. There's numerous people that had 4 and or 5-star horsemen, and they were able to meet the requirements, because the requirements here do not require yellow stars. It just requires gear tier 17 and blue ISO 5, which is still very hard to get. I also want to say that this is going to get easier over time. Now, this does put certain people at a disadvantage. There was a segment of the player base that was slow playing the events and not upgrading the borderline garbage teams. Like if we look at these requirements here, like Web Warriors and Dark Hunters, those are not good teams anymore. They're not relevant teams. And so people were choosing to not upgrade these teams, and they were getting like 400,000 or 500,000 points, and they were slow playing, and they were slowly getting their horseman shards. And this is putting those players at a disadvantage from the way that it was to the new system. And so I wanted to read that because we're going to find out on tomorrow, which is Monday and Tuesday, how this really works. And I'm very curious to see how the community receives these events in practice once they actually go live. The new fixed Horseman Scourge milestones are now viewable in game, and I'm pissed. Now, this is going to be a shock to most people in this sub who are rather late game, but I'm firmly mid game. I just finished Dark Dimension 3, wanted to try to move into the Doom raids. Got my horsemen up to 4 stars each, Archangel at 5. They're chipping away at milestones with around a 400k score average. So this person has 4 and 5-star horsemen, right? So they're not going to be able to get, you know, let's say it's 700k for 4, 900k for 5. They're going to be stuck where they're at unless they upgrade their teams. So this is not a good situation for this player. Let's use an example. I have Morgan Le Fay at 4 stars. Through playing around 3 Pestilent Scourges, now go into the game and check out how high of a score I'll need to earning more shards. 800k. Double my average score, because the game does not account for repeat Scourge playthroughs when assigning your bracket. It just assumes that you got the 4-star your first try. I'm bottlenecked now. This is true. I'm stuck with my 4-star horseman until the roster gets dramatic power boost, and I have to build the ass node teams no one wants to invest in anymore. And the 65 shards it'll give me isn't even enough. I have to get to 900k before I can rank her up. For Archangel, it's 1 million. I've finished Dark Division 5, but they have the roster for these. Yeah, this is a person that's in a situation where the slow play method for getting the horseman is no longer going to work. The one thing I will say, and the big problem with this is potentially diamonds later, because you're not going to be able to do diamonds on the horseman unless you get them to 7 yellow. But this person here with horsemen at 4 and 5, I mean, I've heard reports of people able to get Apocalypse at Baby Apocalypse and or Big Boy Apocalypse. And I do think Apocalypse is still a very important character for 2 reasons. Well, for 3 reasons. One, he's the second best character in the game easily. You know, Super Scroll is a notch up, and then there's Apocalypse, which is a notch down, and then the rest of the characters are much lower. Those 2 are significantly better characters, and they're plug and play, and they're amazingly. Secondly, Apocalypse seems important in getting Super Scroll. Going through Dark Dimension 6 without Apocalypse is like playing the game on super hard mode. It was designed around having Apocalypse, and I think it would be beyond challenging. There are ways of doing it. But then lastly, Apocalypse is going to be assigned the mythic trait. And the mythic trait is going to be assigned to all the Dark Dimension characters. That includes Super Scroll, now Kestrel, Dormammu, so on. And those are going to be the last 2 nodes for Dark Dimension 7 and getting Mephisto. So I think it's going to be pretty hard for those 3 reasons to just avoid getting Apocalypse. Now, the only thing that I will say in Scopely's defense is, because I understand why this person's pissed, is they have been adjusting. They have just recently drastically adjusted the requirements for some of the legendary characters. Some of the legendary characters had these pretty horrible requirements, and you had to upgrade garbage characters to get them. I think Nick Fury was a good example. And on the 11th of December, they drastically made a lot of these requirements way more accessible. For example, Star-Lord expanded the requirements to any cosmic hero. So you can now use, let's say, Pegasus. Another example is Jubilee, expanded the requirements to tech heroes. So somebody over there is acknowledging that the old requirements for these older legendary characters are not necessarily fair. So they made changes. And so my hope is that when they feel it's the right time, they will also modify the requirements for Apocalypse. And just maybe right now, that is not the time. Right now is not the time to make it significantly easier. Because at the end of the day, there's a group of people, boomer Marvel Strike Force players like myself, is like, back in the day when I was playing Marvel Strike Force, I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow, and it should be hard for you to get Apocalypse. You got to realize there's a lot of people that, you know, spent an entire year and it was really hard to get Apocalypse, and they still feel that it should be hard for people to get Apocalypse. And you're going to have to upgrade some characters. Hopefully they're on top of this. I want to read one more post which kind of addresses the unacknowledged problem with the Scourge announcement. There's been a lot of discussion in the following recent Scourge announcement, rightly so, and there will be even more now that the milestones are in game. However, full discussion cannot be had into their live in game, and these versions can be tested in order to see how they impact they will have on new or mid-game players. I'm going to be very interested in reading the Reddit posts on Tuesday. So if this stuff pisses you off tomorrow, make a Reddit post or respond to other people's posts or upvote Reddit posts with people that share your thoughts. The unacknowledged problem that needs to be addressed for the community as soon as possible is how this will impact the current and future trials if they receive the same treatment as they age. Players need to know how these will be treated as they age in order to know how to approach them as they debut and are run. If players know that they will have run for X number of times with leaderboards and then set to permanent milestones, we can determine how much we want or need to invest before each run if we would like to get the trial character to 7 stars before they move to permanent milestones. So what they're talking about is like Nova. If they start switching these other Scourge characters like Nova and Black Cat and Greek Goblin over these, there's been a lot of discussion regarding the Horsemen and how they don't need to be at 7 stars to unlock books, or even BBA for that matter, which is a big boy Apocalypse. Which is true, but it's also missing a larger point. The point that being that the new diamond progression system requires 7 yellow stars to take advantage of. As players with their free-to-player Craig, we need to reliably know how we'll be able to obtain character shards for the most premier characters in the game. And I think that is the main problem with this new system, is that people were approaching the Horsemen in a particular way. They were slow playing it, and that won't work anymore. And I don't think that is a good feeling for the people that were going to basically get the Horsemen at their own schedule without upgrading these relatively useless characters today, like Web Warriors. And now, if they want to get more yellow stars on their Horsemen, they may actually have to upgrade some of these bad teams. I mean, how many of these teams are relevant in any game mode right now? Web Warriors, I don't play Web Warriors in Crucible or Alliance War. Young Avengers and A-Force, I do. Hero as Guardians, I play in Alliance War. Ravagers, no way. Web 1 Avengers get used. Bionic Avengers, nope. Wakanda, yes. So I want to say that more than half of these Node 10, Node 5 teams are not useful in at least one of the meaningful game modes. And when I talk about meaningful game modes, I'm talking about Arena, Raids, Alliance War, and Crucible. Like, those are the 4 meaningful game modes. Some of these teams are not meaningful in any of those at all. And that's not going to feel good. And maybe they need to make some changes at some point in the future. Like, look at this. Fury used to have horrible unlock methods, and now they've opened it up to an assortment of characters that are useful outside of just unlocking Nick Fury. It feels bad to upgrade bad characters just to unlock a character is what I'm trying to say. And maybe they'll just have to address that sometime in the future. In other news, Star Citizen Legatus pack offers players every ship in the game for a cool $48,000. I feel like Scopely says, it always could be worse. We could be charging you $48,000. Arena Store currency needs a rework as soon as possible. Remember, Bella said all players will have the opportunity to get a non-dark promotion credit character to 7 yellow stars at the end of 6 months of their release through normal play. Well, Ronin was recently added to the Arena Store for 975 credits. I have him at 5 yellow stars, which is probably more than most players. I'm in the same place. If I was able to get 10 in the arena every day, I would have Ronin to 7 yellow stars in about 3 months. In other words, 7 months after release. For most players outside the top 10, it'll take much longer than that. And that's assuming no other new characters are added to the Arena Store for the next 3+ months. Part of the problem is the Arena Store rework was balanced around how much currency players are hoarding at the time, not our actual currency income. Regardless of the reason, Ronin's price needs to substantially drop, and or currency income needs to increase significantly if players are get Ronin to 7 yellow stars within the 6 months of release, 1,000%. And then I just wanted to give a shout out to this person for saying that they like the monthly events and that they were a player that started in the game and now they have about 1,300 days in the game, and that they really liked Dissembler's monthly event. And they said, in general, I feel like I got a better value for investing my personal time in the game, even enjoying it. How dare they post a positive post on Reddit? Only salt is allowed. No, I'm always surprised when I read positive posts on Reddit. All right, so where are you with this Horseman? I also feel like there's a large number of people that have their Horsemans at 7 yellow, and this is a nothing burger for a percentage of the players. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Also, if this presents to be a big problem for you, I'm deeply interested on Tuesday reading up on and following up on this. Bye for now.